All right, hump day. Welcome to Frontline, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. We begin at the White House, where President Trump held a cabinet meeting today where he addressed Oman's play to jointly control the Strait of Hormuz with Iran, saying that Oman better get on board, that the Strait is actually international waters or else.
Nobody's going to control it. It's international waters, and Oman will behave just like everybody else, so we'll have to blow them up. They understand that.
Really, Oman? Didn't we give them money for like a border wall a few years ago? Anyway, Joe Biden is suing the Justice Department ahead of the DOJ's June 15th planned release of the 2017 audio recordings and transcripts from his interviews with the ghostwriter of his memoir. Remember the classification worries they had. Now, the DOJ had planned to release the material to the House Judiciary Committee and the Heritage Foundation, which requested the information via FOIA request. And the national gas average is about $4.46 a gallon, but only because of places like California, Democrat-controlled, clocking in at about $6.09 a gallon. But you head to a red state like Indiana, and the average is about $3.86. Democrats, man, just making stuff cost more. But first, another rhino bites the dust. Let's do this. Okay, 4 down, a few more to go. I think Thune is up in 2 years. I don't know. But I'm not endorsing anybody here. But just like the other three that got knocked off, and rhinos in Texas are waking up this morning and be like, how did this happen? Cornyn gave just a sweet, sweet concession speech.
Tonight, we've come up short in this primary runoff. I've spent most of my time in the Senate building the Republican Party in Texas and in the U.S. Senate, and I've always supported the Republican ticket.
Oh, you came up short, all right. And the ticket, the Republican ticket, yeah, you supported that, but not the policy. That's why you're unemployed. For the first time in history, 2 incumbent Republican senators have been knocked off in their own primaries this year because they are not getting along. They're not. They went up against Trump, and they said they didn't do what they said they were going to do, and we the people knocked them out of the park. The age of the do-nothing politician, there is no patience for us voters for that anymore. At least on the right, I should say. Something notable about Paxton's victory speech, though.
Today, change was on the ballot, and change won. Let me be clear, this is not just my win, this is your win. We just proved that this Senate seat doesn't belong to Washington. It belongs to you, the hardworking men and women of this state.
Yep, that's why he won. This is the fundamental misunderstanding with a bunch of these career politicians in D.C. These people work for us, and when we say stuff, you better do it, you better at least listen to us, or we the people will fire you. But all the Beltway Republicans, i.e. Cornyn-style folks, are all, now we're going to have to spend a ton of money to defend this seat. Well, here's some free advice for the GOP. Maybe you shouldn't have spent $100 million trying to prop up John Cornyn, only to have him lose by, 30-something points. Your guy got biblically wrecked. I'm talking Old Testament destruction here. This is how it's going to be, by the way. If you get elected, you better do what you said you were going to do. If you recall, Ken Paxton gave Cornyn an ultimatum that would have allowed him to keep his job. Pass the Save America Act, and Paxton would have dropped out of the race. Remember that? Cornyn couldn't even do that. Think about how horrible that is. And as a result, Ken Paxton spanked him, winning every single county in Texas but 2. All but 2! Look at that map right there. This is from the same elite class of rhinos. Like, oh, Ken Paxton's not electable in statewide office. Despite being elected in statewide office 3 times, you guys, the rhinos could just get bent. See, Ken is a guy who actually did things. I know him personally. He's a great guy. He sued locals and even Biden's agencies for breaking the law in Texas and said, Texas was like, yeah, we want that. We want more people like that. We don't want somebody who doesn't do anything. I don't know how much simpler this lesson can be for Republicans everywhere. They seem to be learning it every week and not learning anything. Then he's running against this guy who said that my campaign is meat-free. But today, the Democrats' X account put out some post of him eating a turkey leg like, oh, November, here we come, in a Texas shirt. Come on, bro. Look at that. That turkey leg's bigger than his arm. Imagine having an arm smaller than a chicken wing. Look at that. You also bought that shirt this morning, probably, on your way to that photo shoot, let's be honest. And just real quick, do Democrats have the same posing coach? Look at these two pictures right here. 7 years apart, same stupid pose. Wasn't a winning message in 2019, sure ain't a winning message now. But we, the party of MAGA, we ain't done yet. You see this? South Carolina, 12 Republicans, we told you about this last night, said, no, we're not going to redistrict our state to make it totally red congressionally like, I don't know, every state in New England is blue. That's fair is fair. Well, I mean, what's it going to take for you people to realize this ain't going to end well for your career? All we want is for you guys to just steamroll Democrats and shrink government. And you can't even do that. You can't even do half of that. Therefore, you're useless and not Republicans, and you're gone. These uni-party relics got to go. Trump's batting 1,000, so let's get down to that state. FAFO, guys. Here are those people, by the way, that voted against their party that needs to be primaried in like less than 2 weeks, I think. Sean Bennett, Chip Campson, Richard Cash, Ronnie Cromer, Tom Davis, Greg Hembry, Michael Johnson, Shane Massey, Majority Leader, imagine that, Harvey Peeler, Luke Rankin, Everett Stubbs, Jeffrey Zell. By the way, most of these people, when they're not being a state senator because it's like a part-time job, they actually have private businesses. Good luck doing businesses in your town or district anymore with Republicans. People on the internet are already calling them out in mass. But this is the only way they're going to learn. Do what you ran on and what we elected you to do, or somebody else is going to do it. And I'm looking at you, John Thune. Also, Scott Presler is as well. Mr. Ground Game himself, who has delivered a ton of victories, is requesting a meeting now with John Thune, sending him an email today saying, hope you're doing well. I just wanted to check Leader Thune's availability when he returns to Washington, D.C. With recent elections in Louisiana and Texas, I hope the Leader Thune is amenable to a thoughtful, peaceful, and productive discussion. I'll also be returning to South Dakota soon to do events across the state. Thank you for reading this email, and I look forward to your response. Sincerely, Scott Presler, your worst nightmare. I added that part. Should be a short meeting, though. Save America Act or be primary. That's all. Have a nice time at the Capitol Grill tonight at your fundraiser. Maybe tell them to fire the Senate parliamentarian while you're there. Did you guys know about this? This is a Democrat-appointed holdover that's like, they're like the rules boss, deciding what can or can't go to the Senate floor. It's being reported that she's putting up roadblocks to the Save America Act, the White House ballroom, and now the ICE funding. Here's the kicker. Thune can fire her at any time unilaterally. We've had the Senate this term for well over a year, and she's still there. And Republicans are being governed on what they can bring to the floor vote by her. None of us elected her. The Senate put her there. Hey, just pound sand, lady. But Thune is using this process to stick it to Trump. I mean, like, what a coward. Scott Presler, I should just start your ground game op in South Dakota today. But the best part about last night, and this is how I know I'm right, because Van Jones is very upset about it.
This is a bad night for America. You have a good man running against a bad man, and the bad man won.
20 hours ago, Democrats hated Cornyn because he was a Republican, and now all of a sudden that he's unemployed, he's a good man and Ken's not. This election is Paxton's to walk away with, but, it can be taken away by our own team. Remember on Friday, I told you about my hometown lessons where some of the rhinos were so sour that they all voted for they voted for Democrats after we ousted them. Rhinos will likely, some of them will just throw this away again. Throw away all the principles they said yesterday that they stood for because they're bitter. And Talarico is courting Cornyn voters, saying, you have a place in our campaign. And if you washy Republicans do this, you will never be forgiven. This is a chance to end Democrats for decades. You guys, you rhinos lost. Can we please get all on the same page and do it the way we want to do it, the majority of the country did? Political strategist Luke Ball and senior political analyst, former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum. Senator, I look at this and I'm like, yeah, party's changed. Let's do this.
Yeah, and look, I've known Ken Paxton since he was a state house member, over 15 years, and I endorsed him when he ran for the state senate. I endorsed him when he ran for attorney general. Look, Ken's not perfect. He's made some mistakes, but one thing you can say about Ken Paxton, he's a principled conservative. He's someone who fights for what he believes in. He's not afraid to take chances. I got to know him because he ran against the Republican Speaker of the House who was doing deals with Democrats, and he stuck his neck out, and that made Republicans and Democrats very angry, and they've been out to get him ever since. So I know Ken, and I can tell you, as someone who's a conservative and who's someone who is very much a blue collar conservative, a MAGA conservative, that Republicans across the board in Texas can support this man, and he is going to be a solid, terrific senator. He's a great principled conservative.
But Luke, how do we get to the point where there are a bunch of Republicans that aren't really Republicans that are being dragged kicking and screaming into the fact that, like, Donald Trump, it reflects, I don't want to say he is the party, but he reflects how most of us feel. Like, that's why we overwhelmingly elected him. He is the fundamental head of this party right now, and yet Republicans are still resisting that.
If Republicans who are sitting members of Congress or senators want to go against the Trump machine, the political operation, and we, the people that put him there, you need two things: a short-term lease in Washington and a good U-Haul guy, because we are going to send you packing. We're going to send you out. And to your point, Carl, it's not just that Trump is the party or when people accuse him of being in charge of the GOP. It's because we, the people, the American worker, the blue-collar, forgotten man and woman, are sick and tired of career politicians going up to Washington and for decades upon decades promising us one thing and delivering something else. And then when the simplest of actions like election security or border enforcement or cutting taxes comes to the floor and you fold on that, these people who elected Donald Trump are going to remember it, and you will suffer the consequences if you break your promises.
Rick, this is crazy to me. The party is always calling for civility. So Democrats tweet out this picture of Talarico saying fired up, ready to go, and it's time to take back, blah, 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 blah. I already put it up earlier. But what's crazy is, so Stephen Miller comes out and was like, hey, congratulations on nominating the first transgender candidate. That's like a joke, okay? The Democrats' official account said, shut up, you ugly F. I mean, I'm like, did some kid think he was on his own account here? It's still up.
Yeah, I mean, the banter has gotten worse and worse. And look, I don't know why they're upset. I mean, they think transgender is perfectly fine. So if you called someone transgender,
yes, why
would you be offended? Right? I mean, if it's just one of six, I think according to Talarico, 6 different sexes, I mean, then, why get so upset about it?
Yeah, actually, that's probably the point of the night right there. Luke, but this is also crazy. Ballotpedia, okay, and this is going back to what we were originally talking about. After the 2020 census, there were 148 districts that were drawn with race in mind. That's 34% of Congress was drawn with some race as a limiting factor of what you can and can't do in those districts. Why isn't every single one of these being redistricted after the Supreme Court threw that stuff out?
Well, to be clear, in addition to that, the Democrats have been redistricting. They've just been doing it through the courts for decades upon decades. True. Suddenly, Republicans realize that the power invested in the state legislatures, gives them the opportunity to go and redraw these districts. Sometimes the GOP just acts as if they have no power whatsoever. And the Democrats always look to Texas and say, that's the reason that we have to fight back. Remember, Eric Holder said we were a threat to democracy for redistricting. Now he's all for it. But if you look at Texas, like Texas's 18th congressional district is so gerrymandered, it looks like a block of Swiss cheese and has more liberals in it than a Portland Starbucks. And yet the Democrats were totally fine with that. So it's time for Republicans to act like they actually hold the power.
Oh, 100%. All right, Rick, this is a funny one. Congressman Al Green, you know this guy. He was the guy who tried to impeach Trump for dastardly deeds. That was the charge. And, well, there he is holding this ridiculous sign. He loses his primary last night. Like, I'm kind of going to miss some of his, political theater. But Trump posted on True Social, Al Green, one of the most mentally deficient congressmen in the history of the country, has lost in a landslide his seat in Congress. But I will miss that lunatic not screaming and violently waving his cane at me during the next State of the Union speech. He lost like 70-30.
Yeah, well, Congress needs characters. I mean, there's always been sort of these these offbeat people. I mean, remember the congressman who thought that was worried about Guam sinking into the ocean?
Oh, Hank Johnson.
Yeah, there you go.
Hank.
Good old Hank Johnson. And back in my day, Jim Traffickin from Ohio, who used to stand on the and called "Beam Me Up, Scotty." And,
Yep.
It's always entertaining. It's almost always Democrats from very safe districts, and that's Al Green just had a little comeuppance.
Yeah.
It's about time, actually.
And that was who's the hooah guy? Who was that? That was Dean something or Howard Dean.
Oh, Howard Dean.
Yeah, Howard Dean.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
I would never forget that. Old
Exactly.
Hank Johnson. I rode an elevator with him. I asked how Guam was doing. He didn't find it funny. Luke, Rick, pleasure as always.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, coming up, think your paycheck doesn't stretch like it used to? You're right. The shocking reality of how much the cost of living has changed over the last 70 years. I'm going to give you a little taste of that and why. But first, DHS chief is doubling down on a controversial plan that could hit sanctuary cities where it hurts most. And the backlash is exploding, and I'm here for it. The man himself, Secretary of Homeland Security Markwayne Mullin, going to sound off in just a sec.
Donald Trump's second presidency is changing America. Now you need to watch Rob Schmitt tonight on President Trump's next big move. Then tune into Rob Finnerty taking on Trump's critics. President Trump says he watches Newsmax. You should too. Download our Newsmax app to watch us anytime, anywhere. Millions are making the switch to Newsmax. Be one.
Hey, I'm Dr. Drupinski. I've been looking at the aging process for a long time. Fatty 15 actually slows it down. Fatty 15 comes out of Navy dolphin research. Without the C15, our cells become fragile and age and oxidize. This pushes that back. That's why I take Fatty 15.
The name's Hampton. I've come a long way from my Humpty days and have learned a thing or two about crashes and falls. That's why I invest with Willow Wealth. They make it easy to diversify my portfolio with private markets. Plus, portfolios including private markets have outperformed traditional ones for the past 20 years. Not that it's a competition. Diversify your portfolio to help rise above public market volatility and level up your game. Those who know, know. Willow Wealth.
My earwax buildup was frustrating. Then I tried new Lipo Earwax Cleanser. The revolutionary formula dissolves earwax 5 times faster than the leading brand and helps prevent future buildup. Feel the difference with new Lipo Earwax Cleanser.
Finished my chores. Ready for my allowance.
Greenlight is way better than how I got paid for chores. Mowing all those lawns really paid off. That was not radical.
Bring your family into the financial future.
Satellite internet that's fast, reliable, and installed by professionals. For work, for play, for every day. Available anywhere you call home. Visit Viasat.com/internet now or call 833-8Viasat to sign up today.
All right. The Trump administration may have just found the pressure point for sanctuary cities and states. Airports. DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullin says the administration is now drawing up plans to stop processing international flights at airports and sanctuary cities. And if that actually happens, we're talking about a potential economic gut punch to some of the busiest airports in America. Check this out. The following airports sit inside states or cities that the DOJ has identified as self-proclaimed, obviously, sanctuary jurisdictions. JFK handles roughly 350 international flights a day. Newark, 250. LAX, another 300 or so. Chicago O'Hare, 300. Denver, close to 40 to 70. Seattle, 120 to 160. San Francisco, internationally, I don't know, another 250 a day. This is just to name a few airports. And with the cost of flights these days, that's what these airports and airlines who fly into them stand to lose, not to mention the tourism. You want to mess around and ignore federal law? Okay, bet, pal. The man himself, Secretary of Homeland Security Markwayne Mullin. Sir, I wouldn't want to be tangoing with this if I was a blue state.
Well, Carl, here's the issue we have. We saw in New Jersey this weekend this rioting going on all the times Memorial Day, which is disgusting in itself, tells you where the priorities of the Democrat Party is. But we called local law enforcement multiple times, and they refused to respond. Now, at one time, they had our gate blocked. They had the roadblock. Our employees couldn't go in and out. We couldn't bring in detainees. We couldn't transfer detainees. And so what's going to happen and this is what we're preparing and we're drawing up right now, is we're going to pull out the CBP officers, the Customs and Border Patrol officers, out of the airports so they can help assist to secure the area. If local law enforcement isn't going to help, then we have to provide what assets we have. And of course, their excuse is they don't have the assets and the ability to help provide security. When we're not saying secure our building, we're saying keep them off the streets and keep them off our buildings. The same thing is happening in Portland almost every single day. So listen, we got to prioritize. And when we start prioritizing, we're going to start pulling officers and we're going to choose to keep our employees safe. And therefore, we won't be able to process international flights going to those airports because those officers will be reassigned.
Yeah, just to be, for the viewers, like if you don't have ICE agents, immigrations, and customs people at these airports, they can't process these people, so therefore they can't leave the airport.
That's right.
Yeah. Earlier today, though, obviously Trump held this cabinet meeting, and you just dropped a bomb about the protest. Roll this.
It shows this radical left Democrats' priorities when they decide to go out and protest a detention center where we're housing rapists, child predators, murderers, drug dealers, and they choose Memorial Day of all the time to go protest something that they say that that it's because they're on a hunger strike when there was only a handful of individuals that was refusing to eat because they want their ethnic group or their ethnic right food. Well, they go back to their country and get whatever food they want. The fact is, we're giving them the calories they want. This isn't Holiday Inn.
I didn't get my Pico de Gallo.
Right. I'm not joking by saying this. They're on a hunger strike because they don't like the bologna sandwiches we're feeding them. I'm not required to feed them their ethnic food. I'm required to have a certain calorie count, and we hit those calorie counts. I got to provide them a clean, safe place to lay down. We provide that for them. We provide medical care for them. And guess what? They also provide commissary, which I think that's kind of a gift. And so any of these left Democrats that want to, provide commissary on their books, feel free, take your personal money, provide all the money you want to for these detainees. In fact, tell us who you want to put money on the books for, and we'll make sure we'll facilitate that for you.
I would venture to say, Mr. Secretary, that most of these people are probably getting better medical care now in the joint than they are out on the street.
You would be surprised at the condition of individuals that we pick up and the fact that they hadn't seen a doctor. Health, it's a real concern that we deal with constantly, not just on the border. That's on a separate issue. But when we go pick up some of these individuals, usually when we show up, we'll serve a warrant on one individual, but there may be several others, and I get number of 6 to 15 or more in one residence. Sometimes the conditions aren't great, and their medical care, you're absolutely right. One of the worst we see is actually dentistry. And so the dental issues we have, which can cause real serious issues, and we provide that care. By the way, the taxpayers provide that care. And the only reason why we're having to do this is because the disastrous Biden administration allowed millions and millions to flood in our homeland under the last 4 years, and President Trump is pushing back on that, and we're clearing the books. That's costing the taxpayers billions and billions of dollars. Today in our cabinet meeting, we were literally thinking if we could get all the fraud off the books that happened underneath the Biden administration, we would have a real good shot at balancing our budget just doing that.
Wow. Makes a pretty good case for it, sir.
Yes, sir.
Or Secretary Markwayne Mullin now. We appreciate it very much, sir.
Thanks, Carl. See you.
All right. Coming up, a Seattle police union giving a free lesson on free speech to their far-left mayor, Katie Wilson. I guess she didn't understand or learn much about the First Amendment when she was living in her parents' basement. Next.
I'm Michael Savage, and I was conservative before conservative was cool. Do you realize how crazy the liberals in this country have become? I do. You want to get me started today? I'll get started. Watch Michael Savage and the Savage Nation every Sunday night.
We can all agree steak is for dads. Grill dads, charcoal dads, tongue-snapping dads, united by their love of steak. His perfect gift is waiting, plus 8 free burgers at omahasteaks.com.
Think you need a new roof? Think again. Most roofing companies only make money one way, by selling you a new roof. But what if your roof isn't worn out, just dried out? And with just a little love, you could put off an expensive roof replacement for up to 15 years, at a fraction of the cost of a new roof. Roofmax is a scientifically engineered restoration formula that brings your shingle life back to new. Scan the code and get a free spring roof tune-up with your Roofmax restoration.
Like a relentless weed, moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms can keep coming back.
Break away to what's possible with Tremfya.
The only IL-23 blocker for Crohn's and UC to offer self-administration from the start.
Tremfya can help with symptom relief as early as 4 weeks, remission at 12 weeks, 1 year, and 2 years.
Some had visible repair of their intestinal lining. Serious allergic reactions, increased risk of infections or lower ability to fight them, and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or need a vaccine. Break away with Tremfya.
Backed by over 15 years of clinical research. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today.
If you still have bad breath by lunchtime, your mouthwash isn't working. Smart Mouth is the only mouthwash that prevents bad breath for 24 hours. This is the only mouthwash I recommend. Upgrade your mouthwash to Smart Mouth today and never have bad breath again.
They tell you to optimize, to hack. But what if you were never broken? Armor Colostrum, the first food of life, reawakens your innate brilliance. 400 nutrients, 4 seconds, 1 daily revival.
Homeowners ask me all the time, do gutter guards really work?
Leaf Filter certainly does. In our testing, Leaf Filter handled double the rain of common hood-style guards.
It's Homes approved.
Call 877-77-HOMES or visit leaffilter.com/homes.
You can get shades like these for under $30, and they come with lost and broken protection. Our Memorial Day sale is live right now at ShadyRays.com. You don't want to miss it. It's the sale of the summer, so head that way and get yours today.
Where's my mother gonna... Oh, no. Is this the episode with the breakup?
Reba, we can't agree on the house.
Y'all need Realtor.com. With over 500,000 new listings every month, you could find the one today. This could be it. Better put a key ring on it. Realtor.com.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dry premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and it's available at your local pet store.
Here's just like a little lesson on how absolutely to own these less than intelligent Democrat mayors are taking over blue cities. So the Seattle Police Officers Guild has been criticizing their mayor, Katie Wilson, for a ton of stuff, but there's some good material here on policies. One of their main issues was that she was trying to eliminate the closed-circuit television cameras that they use. So the police tweeted this out. The mayor's office claims CCTV cameras might be used for immigration enforcement, and the program shouldn't be expanded. CCTV cameras were an essential tool used to find a missing senior citizen. Give Seattle Police Department officers the tools they need to keep Seattle safe, at Mayor of Seattle. And a few days later, they wrote, another example of CCTV cameras helping SPD detectives and their guild members investigate violent crime in Seattle. Mayor Katie, how many more examples do you need? Don't take away the vital tools officers rely on to identify, locate, and apprehend violent criminals in our city. And I guess Katie Wilson got her feelings hurt, and her people sent this email to the president of the Seattle Police Officers Guild.
This email was sent by the mayor's staff to SPOG President Kent Liu, saying the post, quote, appears to violate SPD policy regarding real-time crime center cameras and Seattle Municipal Code that bars recorded information from being used for political purposes, with the instruction, please pull the post immediately.
Oh, that's an order. I looked at the content of the email. I thought, well, that sounds like a threat. We're not changing our tone, our rhetoric. We're not going to be threatened or intimidated.
Yeah. Good for that guy. It's nice to know that there's still people with a backbone in Seattle. Police Officers Guild tweeted out, after a brief review of the First Amendment, the mayor's office has retracted its request that SPOG, the Guild, Police Officers Guild, remove our posts. They also said, look forward to working with the police union in the future. Freedom of speech 1, mayor's office 0. Actually, she's negative quite a bit. That's how you do it, folks. Don't let these libs silence you. Dean Cain, actor and host of the new podcast, The Homeland, that you should definitely go subscribe to, and honorary ICE officer himself, which makes me like him even more. Sir, I mean, like, you couldn't have just, like, this is what happens when you elect somebody from their basement.
You literally, and you say that, and it sounds like a joking tone, but I think she lives at home with her parents.
Still,
she's never had a job. She doesn't do anything, and so she's got all these ideas that sound great, and then she steps into power and absolutely just, for lack of a better word, she sucks horribly. And so those poor police officers in Seattle, God bless them. I mean, I'm a deputy sheriff in Frederick County, Virginia. We got a great sheriff. We got a great area that we work, and they're wonderful. But I can't imagine how difficult it is on these Seattle police officers. And then, trying to take away that tool of the CCTVs, which helped save that old man and helped identify some shooters and some other things. That's such a huge integral tool. It's insane. I'm glad they slapped him down. Thank God for Elon Musk buying X, because you couldn't have publicized this any other way.
Yeah, no, exactly. But speaking of Seattle, I just have to laugh at this stuff.
Do we have to?
Yeah, we do have to, because neighborhoods are now building barricades, like a wall that they said didn't work, to protect themselves from drive-by gangs shooting up their houses. It's almost like they voted for this by electing a mayor who defunds the police, welcomes dangerous illegal aliens, and lives in her parents' basement, as we just said. I mean, also the irony that all these libs are now erecting walls around their neighborhoods. Dean?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I was just watching that with shock on my face. Yeah. It's insane. It's insane. Well, these poor people, you don't want to be a vigilante, but sometimes you have to handle things yourself. And I understand these people wanting to have a safe neighborhood. I get it. I've got kids. I understand it. You have kids. You don't want that happening. And if people aren't going to take care of business, sometimes people have to step up and do so. I'm glad they're getting the attention, because that attention hopefully will draw enough eyeballs on this and people say, that's not right. It shouldn't be the case that this situation goes on. Yeah. I feel bad for them. I had to leave California. Maybe they have to leave Seattle. The weather ain't that great up there anyway.
Yeah. I mean, beautiful place. The fact that they could wreck
gorgeous.
That I don't know. Whatever. I want to get to this Minneapolis police chief. Okay, this guy. This was the guy who was like lecturing, Brian O'Hara, who was the guy lecturing in on all the morality behind George Floyd and BLM, and he was like, you have to support, like, kneeling down to these people, told us that, Republicans are bad guys and he's all that is good. Well, he just resigned after allegedly, of course, interfering with an investigation into his own conduct. The office received an anonymous complaint alleging that O'Hara had engaged in sexual relations with city employees, where he intentionally deleted a contact card from his city-issued cell phone to get around this.
Yeah, that's a bit of a problem. Obviously the police chief is appointed by the mayor. If people don't know how that works, that's how that works. And the mayor, Jacob Frey, who's known to be an absolute patriot. I am kidding. Yeah. He is, finally took a stand. I think they probably wanted him out for some reason or another, but obviously you shouldn't be impeding an investigation. But again, another police department that's so difficult for these poor, wonderful patriot police officers to have to work under that chief, under that mayor. It's just awful. Yeah. I feel horrible for the people who were there, but again, they voted for it.
Yeah. Well, Dean Cain, brother, great to have you on again, sir.
Always a pleasure, sir.
All right. And go check out his podcast. It's dope. Coming up, we're getting close to summer, and the weather is getting warmer, but to some, that's a sign of climate change, not summer. All that Culture Clash.
People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for The Record on Newsmax.
It's 2 a.m., your fever spiked and you're miserable. Here's your options.
Urgent care, closed. ER, slammed, and you'll spend hundreds of thousands in both. Telehealth, yeah, but the pharmacies are closed.
That's the reason why we keep emergency medical kits at home.
It has doctor-prescribed medication like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other antibiotics and antivirals. You can treat flu, pneumonia, strep, sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
Because if you're sick in at night, traveling or stranded, you don't want options.
You want what is inside this kit. No waiting, no pharmacy, and no copays.
Just schedule a quick telehealth call.
And that's how you feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
Every family should have this kit, and here's how to order yours.
Order online in minutes and use the promo code to save $45. Your doctor-prescribed kit ships fast to your door, packed with medications to treat over 30 conditions. So when something hits, you're ready. And a wellness company telehealth doctor is always there if you need guidance.
Cholesterol support shouldn't stop at diet and exercise. Meet Human Cholesterol Health Daily, the only cholesterol support supplement to combine these unique, clinically studied forms of ingredients for game-changing cholesterol support. Now available at your nearest Walmart.
Life with ear ringing sounded like a constant train whistle I couldn't escape. Then I started taking lipoflavonoid. With 60 years of clinical experience, it's the #1 doctor-recommended brand for ear ringing. And now I'm finally free. Take back control with lipoflavonoid.
In America, we believe in hard work, family, and taking care of our own. That's why SafeStep walk-in tubs are proudly designed, built, and assembled in the USA, in the heart of Tennessee, by more than 300 hardworking Americans.
My name is Michelle Johnson. Lamination is where we put the fiberglass, resin, and gel coat on the actual product.
Skilled craft professionals building every tub with precision, care, and pride. With a low step-in design, built-in safety features, and soothing therapeutic jets, SafeStep helps you stay comfortable, confident, and in control.
My name is Angela Peters. We make sure everything is as perfect as it can be.
When you choose SafeStep, you're not just investing in your home, you're supporting American families and American jobs. Call now for your free in-home consultation and ask about our special offer. SafeStep walk-in tubs, made in Tennessee, made for you.
At Ancestry, we believe every question about the past is a spark. And when curiosity strikes about the everyday lives of your family, we're here with answers only your ancestors can provide. How is your family woven into 250 years of U.S. history? Find out now at Ancestry.
This is keratin debris, where nail fungus grows. Nonix Nail Gel cleans out fungus by removing keratin debris. Using Nonix, 90% of nails improve. Get clinically proven results. So effective, it's money-back guaranteed.
Breaking from the news of Sky News this week, posting on X the all-time May record temperature of 32.8 Celsius has been matched for the first time in 82 years. First of all, that should just say 91 degrees because that's what matters. Fahrenheit is the only thing we use. And second, so you're basically saying that in 82 years, despite decades of climate hysteria and trillions of dollars thrown at this garbage, the temperature stays the same. Got it. But then you have people like this guy on X responding to me. Thankfully, people trust scientists and not Newsmax brainlets recycling talking points from 10 years ago and still not getting it. All right, Helmet, have another tea and crumpet. You're wrong. Probably because according to a 2022 Heartland Institute report, which is done by actual scientists that I read, which is how I get my conclusions, 96% of all temperature stations fail to meet acceptable placement. That's according to NOAA standards, undermining the legitimacy and magnitude of long-term climate warming trends. Guy, many that used to be in like a field are now surrounded by asphalt because, blacktop wouldn't make anything hotter, right? Hayley, Caronia, host of the Scrolling with Hayley podcast, and Tom Cotter, stand-up comedian and climate expert for today. Tom?
I am a climate expert. I drive an electric car 3 days a week because I'm a golfer. So I feel like I can talk about this.
Totally
I don't know. I'm waiting for Greta Thunberg's mea culpa and Al Gore's, which is because right now Florida should be submerged, as should California, God willing. And it's not happened. And I also want Greta to come out as trans. I'm sure that's around the corner, too.
Yeah. Well, one can hope. Anyway. Haley actually is a golfer, and she does drive the electric golf carts, too.
And I'm in Florida, which is not underwater. Thankfully, I can still drive my electric golf cart.
Fake news. You're lying. That's misinformation. You are actually underwater right now. All right. So, Haley, in Los Angeles, the mayor, Karen Bass, she's racking up some endorsements from has-been, like Maxine Waters, who doesn't live in her district, and Snakes on a Plane, Samuel L. Jackson. Roll this.
These are the times we need someone who understands government
who also understands the needs of the people. Someone who will go in the streets and gather the people together, not someone who will divide them. Karen Bass is that person. Karen Bass for mayor.
Well, fire hydrants need water. That wasn't there. People need homes. Those aren't getting built. I mean, yeah, she understands the needs of people.
Yeah, that's such an odd thing to say. Karen Bass understands the needs of the people. I think the people would probably disagree. Maybe she shouldn't have been in Ghana when her city was under flames. I mean, absolutely, she was in the wrong place. I don't know why the LA mayor was in Ghana to begin with. But I was actually looking up this before. You know, do you remember when all the Democrats wore those kente cloths and they were kneeling for George Floyd?
Yeah.
That was Karen Bass. That was Karen Bass's doing.
She was in on that.
So I tweeted at Spencer Pratt. I'm like, he needs to run this through. He needs to remind all these LA voters that this is the person that did all that cultural appropriation. You want to vote her in again? I don't think so.
Yes. Empty fire hydrants. Karen Bass, 2026. All right, Tom, New York, one leftist state assemblyman is actually targeting New Yorkers that were persecuted by the Biden DOJ. Watch this.
Today, I introduced the New York Anti-Insurrectionist Act. This bill would create a 100% state income tax on any New Yorker who collects from this fund. It's simple. If you're a New Yorker and you take from this illegal slush fund, New York State will tax 100% of it. If you storm the Capitol and you take from the slush fund, too bad. We're taking it.
I don't know if they can do that. That's like maybe a Republican state taxing 100% on abortion clinics. So, I mean, why not?
Yeah, it's non-constitutional. There's no way it's going to ever pass. And this guy is just a clone of Bomb Dummy. He looks just like him. I don't know why these effeminate guys grow beards and expect to believe that they're macho all of a sudden.
They have to hide the no chin.
Perhaps, but I mean, this guy's a jerk, and and we're going to tax New Yorkers more. I live in New York because I love the smell of urine, and we are already taxed to death. So let's stop with the taxation in New York, please.
Yes, because they're spending it so wisely. But Hayley, in Oregon, the state is a step closer to criminalizing hunting and fishing. The people for the elimination of animal cruelty exceptions, or what they call the Peace Act, has surpassed the 117,000 signatures to make it to the ballot. This is going to be ineligible. We're going to have Ted Nugent on to talk about this because he's been there. But in Herrera v. Wyoming, there's a Supreme Court ruling that to the Treaty of 1868 says that you have the right to hunt under the Life, Liberty, and Pursuit of Happiness Clause.
Yeah, there's no way that this gets through. Absolutely not. Even if they have enough signatures to get this on the ballot, there's no way. Actually, the Oregon Department of Fishing and Wildlife, they encourage hunting. So I don't know how this is going to work. And there's a huge PBR. So this isn't just hunting and fishing. I looked this up, and they said that this is actually going to be prohibiting animals in rodeos. It's going to prohibit operating a commercial poultry business. You can't castrate or neuter livestock, among other activities. So this is going to hurt the professional bull riding event that's massive in Oregon, Labor Day weekend. Think of all the business that they're not going to get if this goes through, and all the businesses like farmers and ranchers that won't be able to do their business. Absolutely not. There's no way.
No slaughterhouses. But Tom, real quick, I got about 30 seconds for you here. Your boy, Mam Danny, I know you hang out with him regularly. He wants to confiscate buildings because, they're irresponsible. They need to be handed over to people. How well do you think these people who are handed free pads are going to treat them?
Horribly, just like the illegal immigrants treated the five-star hotels we put them in New York. They have no respect for anything. And God, you reap what you sow. We elected this jerk into office, and now we're stuck with him. We made this bed, we got to sleep in it. And God, if I were Ken Griffin, I would be just outraged at this guy, and I would have already moved.
Yeah, well, Ken Griffin just ghosted him, was like, I'm done with this guy. But I'll put him down for a definite maybe for your foursome this weekend. Hayley?
Sure.
Tom? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, here's a list of things the government does well. Next. That's all.
Spring. Things out here have gotten a little too comfortable. It's time to run it. Run it until the grass becomes a lawn. Until the hedges duck for cover. Then run it again. Right now, save $30 on select trimmers. Steel.
Millions of people trust Prevagen for their brain.
I've been taking Prevagen for 4 years now. It's a life changer.
I've been taking Prevagen for 8 years now, and it's still helping me tremendously.
Well, I've been taking Prevagen, I know, for over 10 years.
Why do more people choose Prevagen year after year more than any other brain supplement?
Because it just works.
Prevagen is the #1 selling brain supplement nationwide for over 10 years. Prevagen, for your brain.
Millions of Americans rely on a statin to reduce cholesterol, but statins can deplete CoQ10 levels. I recommend Cunol CoQ10 with 3 times better absorption and the #1 cardiologist recommended form. It helps replenish what statins deplete. Cunol, the brand I trust.
My paycheck was just deposited into my Greenlight account.
Greenlight is so convenient. You know, we had to use a vacuum tube.
Where is it going?
Bring your family into the financial future.
Healthy plants guaranteed to thrive, handpicked for you. That's what FastGrowingTrees.com delivers. And every tree comes with our Live and Thrive guarantee. Get the plants you want and the results you'll love. Save now at FastGrowingTrees.com.
Nobody knows Corvettes like McMulkin Chevrolet, the world's largest Corvette dealer for 5 consecutive years. Set apart by its name alone, Corvette delivers a legacy of American craftsmanship, and a vehicle that sets the bar for performance cars deserves a buying experience that beats it. With hundreds of Corvettes in stock and ready for immediate delivery nationwide, it's no wonder Corvette enthusiasts from across the USA keep coming back to McMulkin Chevrolet.
My dad has never been in better shape. He had a stroke and passed away. He had a life insurance policy. Ethos.com. In 10 minutes, you can be covered with life insurance.
Check your price today at ethos.com.
Sir, he's here to see you.
So, are you ready to join forces? PCMag provides complete protection for your computer and smartphone against malware and ransomware, and it's 100% American-made and supported security.
Today, Cyberman and his unknown partner delivered a massive victory, protecting homes, businesses, and federal devices from ransomware.
Get protected now at PCmatic.com.
If you don't feel like your money is going as far as it used to, you're not wrong. Because it isn't. I'm not talking about like micro trends for this month to month, like this temporary Iran conflict, little spike we were having. That's going to go back down. I'm talking about substantial shifts in the cost of living over the last 60, 70, 80 years. We've talked about the Federal Reserve, and that's neither federal nor does it have any reserves that controls the value of your money, which is its own problem. But let's go back to the 60s through, I don't know, the 90s. I wish I knew I was in the good old days in the 90s, by the way, with like out a cell phone. Nobody's videotaping the stupid stuff I was doing. I wish I knew I was in it when I was actually in it rather than looking back at it. But the average college tuition in the 60s was $1,500 a year, and the average salary was like $5,000 to $6,000 a year. And people could legitimately live a very comfortable life with a stay-at-home mom and a single income. Disneyland was $1.50. Entrance now is 100 times that. A haircut, $1 to $2. Gallon of milk was under 50 cents. The average monthly rent was $98 a month. That's a month. That's 4 drinks in Manhattan now. You could go buy a car back then in 1960, Gucci'd out, white wall tires, actual real leather seats, wooden steering wheel, under $3,000. And the average home was like $12,000 to buy. Soup to nuts. What happened? Well, in large part, the government. The biggest drain on the value of your money is government, printing more of it. Since leaving the gold standard, our money has completely cratered. In 1960, gold was for $35 an ounce and would have cost you 343 ounces to buy the average home. Now, the average home is drastically more expensive at $417, but only 83 ounces of gold at $5,000 an ounce. This is in part because government made risky loans possible, i.e. 2008, but they're still doing it, for people who didn't have income requirements, and we let 40 million illegals into this country, gave them subsidies for living, creating a supply crisis. Again, government-created problem, but also nobody knows how to build stuff anymore, and they have to hire someone to put on an outlet cover or to flip a circuit breaker. A substantial part of the country used to be able to build at least part or some of all of their own house. In the 60s, the owner's manual of your car used to explain how to adjust the distributor cap. Now it just tells you not to drink the contents of the battery. Let's bring it closer to our immediate future, though. In the year 2000, the average house was $119,000. A beer was $2. The average salary was $42,000 a year. Now the average home, like I said, $417,000 a year. A beer's $6, not in the city. I think I paid like $14 for one beer in New York the other night. In Connecticut, my energy cost has quadrupled in 25 years. The salary has just not even doubled. Costs are up over 200-300% in some sectors, yet the median salary in America has not even remotely doubled. That's because the cost of doing business has doubled, mostly because of government. They have inserted regulations and permits and fees, and these things are completely unnecessary, but they make it more expensive. We told you about this in California as a perfect example of people just trying to build their homes after the state let it burn down. First, then, you have to contend with the EPA. Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, Safe Drinking Water Act, Resource Conservation Recovery Act, Marine Protection Research and Sanctuaries Act, Toxic Substance Abuse Control Act. Any issue that arises during this process will take time to fix, which means that development on the building in question will be delayed by a substantial amount. CEQA, that's the California Environment Quality Act. It is a doozy. This is their tree flow chart that you can follow along, so it helps you understand the process. I mean, that looks simple enough, right? Building permits in California rose by 430% from 2008 to 2018, and they kept going up from there. Rest assured, if you at any level received any state funds, they will likely include some sort of dumb DEI requirements. You're going to have to hire some LGBTQ chapter president with a pink hammer on your construction crew. It's going to be owned by a woman of color, and you got to be a midget. Businesses have to comply with all that. So they have to hire somebody who knows how to do it internally or externally, which makes the cost of them doing business, like a plumber who needs, I don't know, maybe a lawyer to comply with the new regulations. He has to cover that to charge on those costs. Environmental groups, they have made it nearly impossible to drill for oil. That's increased dramatically. And every time they make a new regulation in the government, they need to hire more staff that costs more taxpayers in that said department to monitor your compliance that no doubt will have a fine if you don't do it properly. You folks, you do not hate government enough. Oh, the only answer to this is less government, which is why I will vote for a potato over a Democrat. Remember that the government steals 50% of your loot in taxes every year after already stealing 50% of the value of your dollar over the last 20 years. Folks, this is something that cannot be tolerated. And when you go to the ballot box, it's just like in New York when all the women were like, oh my God, safety is the #1 issue in New York. And then they voted for the guys like, I'm going to close down Rikers Island and put all the criminals in your backyard. This is unbelievable. There's such a detachment between liberals and even centrists now and the reality and the consequences of their actions. Whatever. What do I know? Before we go, America gearing up for its 250th birthday, but not in Rutland, Massachusetts, despite raising funds for those festivities. Next.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. I mean, that decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
My friends, I come to you today on behalf of the Jewish people in Ukraine whose lives have been completely destroyed. Family and loved ones brutally killed. The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is inside of Ukraine, providing emergency food and supplies to tens of thousands of people. But the food crisis is growing for Jewish families and especially for the elderly.
I am shocked how many elderly people came here. They're afraid, and they realize now that there are more people than boxes.
For just $25, you can help rush an emergency food box to the elderly Jews in Ukraine. Many of them are hungry, frightened, and alone. Your gift helps provide critical food when it's needed most. Call or go online now.
The people of Ukraine are caught in the crosshairs of war. Many of these precious people are Holocaust survivors, elderly Jews who are sick and dying. They have no food, and we must reach them now before it's too late.
The world is in a war again. I am alone. I'm afraid of the bombs. I'm scared. I am old. There is no food.
Just $25 helps rush emergency food to elderly Jews in Ukraine who are in urgent need today. Please call, scan, or go online right now.
I will not starve. Thank you, good people.
We can be the hope to the Jewish people who are suffering in Ukraine. Your help is desperately needed now.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
Hey, I'm Dr. Drew Pinsky. I've been a physician for 4 decades. I've been looking at the aging process for a long time, and Fatty 15 is one product that actually slows it down. Fatty 15 comes out of Navy dolphin research. A brilliant veterinarian realized that dolphins get disease much like humans. She looked at what predisposed to those problems, isolated the molecule, gave it to the animals, they didn't get the problem. Without the C15, our cells become fragile and age and oxidize. This pushes that back. Cell health equals physical health. That's why I take Fatty 15.
Sounds like someone probably needs to sue this town. The Rutland, Massachusetts Fire and Police Department just announced that they will no longer be celebrating the 4th of July due to staffing issues. Classic. I mean, yeah, George Washington just should not have crossed the Delaware due to staffing issues, I guess. But really, this shocks me. These people, they went and begged for donations for this ceremony, and then they cancel the event. And then they say this: after consultation with town council, the town has determined that donations should not be refunded. What? How many of those donors were probably vendors that were excited to celebrate the 250th, and they were going to make their money back on the loot that they were selling? Pretty sure that's straight up fraud or theft and illegal. Like if a nonprofit raises a bunch of money under the guise of something and then they don't do that, they can actually go to jail for that. Like, I don't know, Feeding Our Future in Minneapolis. Then you can't help but wonder where Massachusetts gets their unlimited money for these queer parades, made-up events. You're telling me you can't launch some fireworks? I'll come up there and do it for free. I'll even pay for the fireworks. We asked the town what's going on. Didn't get a comment back. But, Rob, I don't, like, I'd be pretty PO'd.
You do love yourself some fireworks. That much I know about Carl.
America, man.
Look at his Instagram sometime around the 4th of July.
Hell yeah.
He's blasting off everything he can find.
Yeah, buddy.
Carl. I love it. All right.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.